Has Big Radio rejected a letter you want read on air? Well, don't despair, because Radio Lugnut will read anything out, and I mean anything. Radio Lugnut presents his latest edition of You Can't Say That on Big Radio. Letters are read out by listeners that Big Radio, who attempts to control every thought, has deemed too controversial. Radio Lugnut.
Thank you, Rosemary. You're a wonderful bird. I say that with the utmost sincerity. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for my politically incorrect views. But quite frankly, I don't care. I have a letter here from one of our regular listeners, Alan Smith. He lives in Thornbury. Dear Radio Lugnut, as you know, I'd like to... I can't... Alan, I can't read your handwriting. I'm just going to have to go and get my big torch. Where's my torch? You write really, really small, Alan. Has anyone ever told you that? I've got my torch in my bag here. Who makes these bags anyway? Must be Chinese construction. It's not very well made. That's better. All right. Here we go. Dear Radio Lugnut, last night about 11:30 I was feeling rather peckish. I decided to go down and make myself a cheese sandwich, which is usually my go-to in these situations. However, when I got to my fridge and opened it, I realised to my shock and horror that President Zelensky of Ukraine was sitting on the top shelf. He was trying to steal my container of Philadelphia cheese spread. Now, as you know, and all the listeners know, I love my cheese spread with a passion that not even a woman can replace. When I confronted Mr. Zelensky and told him that he was to not steal my cheese spread, he told me that he was doing it on behalf of the Ukrainian people. He insisted that the cheese spread belonged to him. He took a big spoon, hid it in his pocket. It was rusty and bent and looked rather warped. He dipped it into my cheese spread, took a big dollop and then disappeared in a puff of smoke and logic. I then decided that, well, since the tin was open, I'd rather have a sandwich just made of Philadelphia. But unfortunately, it tasted like Ukrainian warped spoon, and I couldn't quite enjoy it. I put it in the toaster, and there were still metal particles and other sort of nano things that were ruining my sandwich. Of course, I've sent this to Big Radio, but I don't think they're going to put it up. Big Radio tends to control every single letter and every single thought that's been said by individuals. Well, Alan, you're amongst friends here. You're not the only one who's seen people coming out of the fridge. Of course, if you remember the cultural explosion of 1995, ghosts coming out of fridges. I also at Home and Away saw a ghost coming out of the fridge in a memorable scene of Bobby popping up. One day Bobby, next day a world leader. Today it's Zelensky coming out of the fridge. Who's it going to be tomorrow? Am I going to open my fridge and see the ghost of Kosygin coming out? Is Nikita Khrushchev going to give me a lesson on building a wall and throwing shoes at me? God knows. But the one thing that's sure is that Radio Lugnut is going to cover everything. So if you see world leaders coming out of your fridge, I think you should write to me immediately. Don't bother with Big Radio. They control every single thing that's ever put on the radio. But I'm above Big Radio. I know their number. And I'll tell you what, if you want to complain about Big Radio, you can call this special number 1-800 Big Radio. 1-800 Big Radio. Put you through a nice measure. You can make a donation to the Fund to Fight Big Radio and other corporations that are trying to control the narrative. Now, and I hope you're doing okay. There are many hotlines you can ring when you see world leaders coming out of your fridge. Of course, this reminds me of an experience I had when I was 19. I've never told anyone about this because I was not believed at the time. It made me rather hesitant, but now I feel I can share it. I opened the fridge one day and I saw Jimmy Carter sitting there. He was singing This Old Man and playing with spoons on my pots of salad. When I asked Mr. Carter what he was doing in my fridge, he said, "I'm just having a holiday," in a southern drawl. When I told him he should be leading America, he looked at me and disappeared in a puff of smoke and logic. I've never forgotten it, and when I told my parents, they tried to have me committed. I escaped and ran away, and thankfully have made my way to Radio Lugnut, where I'm the voice of everyone who might have an alternative view to Big Radio. For more on Radio Lugnut, go to www.radiolugnut.com.au. That's www.radiolugnut.com.au.